It had been 5 years since Ethan Walker gave away $10 at a quiet gas station on a freezing night, and lost his job for it. He never expected to see her again. But that evening, as the sun dipped behind the Guardian fuel sign, a woman stepped through the doors, holding a little girl by the hand. She looked older now, but her eyes, those eyes, he remembered. Woman, you probably don't remember me. Ethan. Wait, was that you? Woman, you gave me $10 when I had nothing. No questions, no judgment. You saved us. And just like that, everything came full circle. The kindness he thought was forgotten had grown into something he never imagined. If this moment touched your heart, hit that like button, drop a comment with your favorite part, and subscribe so you don't miss the rest of this incredible story. Because what happens next might just restore your faith in humanity. The clock on the gas station wall blinked 11:47 p.m. Cold October wind rattled the windows, and the lot was nearly empty except for the flickering neon sign that buzzed like it was barely hanging on to life. Ethan Walker rubbed his hands together, standing behind the counter in a Morrison's uniform that had grown too familiar over the past 3 years. Outside, the world felt asleep. But for Ethan, this was survival time. One more shift, one more paycheck closer to covering next semester's tuition. At 23, while his classmates partied or posted pictures from dorm rooms, Ethan stocked energy drinks, wiped down gas pumps, and memorized the names of truck drivers who rolled in like clockwork. He wasn't bitter about it, just tired. Tired but steady. His mum, Linda Walker, had taught him that. She'd raised him alone, working 2 jobs, flipping pancakes at dawn and waitressing at night. Some nights, Ethan remembered, they barely had gas to make it to school and back. One evening, she handed him 3 quarters, said, "Let's pray the tank cooperates today," and smiled like it was an adventure. It stuck with him, that grit, that grace. He'd learned early, you help when you can, not because someone deserves it, but because one day you might be the one counting quarters. The chime over the door rang, sharp against the stillness. Ethan looked up. A beat-up Honda rolled into the lot and parked at pump 3. The engine coughed before going still. A woman stepped out, her coat too thin for the weather, her movements slow, cautious. Through the foggy windshield, Ethan saw the silhouette of a baby carrier in the back seat. She walked in, clutching a worn leather wallet. Her makeup was faint, her eyes exhausted. "Hi," she said, voice barely above a whisper. "I need to get to Brighton. I only have $15. How far will that get me?" Ethan glanced at the pump prices. Not far. "Brighton's at least an hour and a half from here," he said gently. "You'll need around $25 worth to make it safely." Her eyes shimmered. "I've tried 3 other stations. They all turned me away. I just started a new job. My first paycheck isn't in yet. I thought I had enough." He saw it then, the same look his mother once wore at the end of a long week, with nothing left but a kind lie and an empty wallet. Ethan nodded slowly. "Give me a second." He opened a second register drawer beneath the counter, one reserved for paperwork and rubber bands. Quietly, from his own wallet, he slid out a $10 bill, folded it, and tucked it beneath her 15. Then he rang it up as a $25 cash sale. "Pump 3 is good," he said. "You're all set." Her jaw dropped slightly. "I can't let you do that." "It's only $10, Ethan replied. "Just pay it forward someday." She stared at him for a long second before nodding. "Thank you, you have no idea." Ethan watched her fill the tank, check on the baby, then drive off into the dark. He didn't know the security camera in the corner had caught every second, and he definitely didn't know that someone had been watching. The back office door slammed open. Mr. Coleman, the new manager sent by corporate, stormed out, red-faced, furious. "What did you just do?" Ethan turned slowly. "She had a baby in the car. She was stranded. I just helped. You gave her gas she didn't pay for." "No," Ethan said calmly. "I covered it, out of my pocket. It didn't cost the station a cent." "You opened the drawer," Coleman snapped. "You manipulated the system. There's no note, no authorization, no receipt. That looks like theft." Ethan blinked. "I was going to write it in the logbook when the line slowed." "Doesn't matter," Coleman said coldly. "This company's bleeding money. We're under audit, and now I have a camera recording of you breaking protocol." Ethan stood taller. "So I lose my job for helping someone?" "No," Coleman hissed. "You lose your job for thinking you're above the rules. Clean out your locker. You're done." Ethan didn't argue. He took off his name tag, placed it on the counter. As he walked out into the cold night, his heart wasn't angry, just hollow. Back home, in his tiny apartment above a laundromat, Ethan sat on the edge of his bed. He looked at his textbooks, his rent notice, the utility bills stacked on his desk. The $10 he gave that woman wasn't going to change her world, but it cost him everything he had left. And yet, somehow, he didn't regret it. Sometimes doing the right thing isn't free, but it's still the right thing. What he didn't know, as he sat there staring at the flickering bulb in the ceiling, was that miles down the road, in the back seat of a Honda, a baby slept soundly. And everything was about to change. The sun didn't rise so much as it leaked through the clouds that next morning, dull and indifferent. Ethan sat at his kitchen table, still in his Morrison's uniform, staring into a bowl of cereal gone soggy. He hadn't slept. Not because of anger, that had come and gone, but because of something heavier. Emptiness. He had followed his gut. He had done the right thing. And now the rent clock was ticking louder than ever. His phone buzzed. Another job listing. Another long-shot opportunity. He swiped it away. He had applied to 7 places already. No replies. Maybe it was the timing. Maybe it was the word terminated on his record. Or maybe kindness didn't matter on a resume. He opened his laptop and pulled up the student portal. His tuition balance stared back at him like a silent accusation. If he didn't pay by next week, his enrollment would freeze. That meant he'd lose his credits. Everything he worked for would be stuck in limbo, waiting for a miracle that might never come. He shut the screen. On the shelf beside his desk sat a worn leather notebook. He flipped it open. Inside were pages filled with names, stories, sketches. 3 years of customer memories he'd kept. Ethan didn't just pump gas, he remembered birthdays. He knew which trucker had a daughter who loved dinosaurs, which nurse always ordered 2 coffees but drank only 1 because the other was for a coworker stuck on night shift. This notebook had no dollar value, but it had something else. Proof that people mattered. His mom had done the same thing at the diner she worked at. Linda Walker never had much, but she kept a journal of customers and their kindnesses. One time, a woman left a note with her tip. "Thanks for the smile. Today was hard." Linda had cried reading it, then pressed that note between the pages like it was a pressed flower. Ethan had found it years later and done the same. The doorbell rang. Ethan shuffled to the door. It was Mrs. Patel, his upstairs neighbor. She handed him a Tupperware of curry and patted his arm. "You were out late last night," she said kindly. "Eat. You look like you haven't eaten since Tuesday." He smiled genuinely. "Thanks." "You're a good boy, Ethan," she said. "Good things find good people, maybe not today, but someday." He nodded, not trusting himself to speak. That night, Ethan sat by his window, watching headlights sweep through the parking lot below. He wondered if the woman he helped had made it home. If her baby was warm. Safe. He'd probably never know. That was the thing about doing good. It didn't come with a receipt. His phone buzzed again. A message from a temp agency. "We'll keep your file on hand." Not a no, but not a yes either. He dropped the phone onto the bed, and then something strange happened. He didn't cry. He didn't curse. Instead, he picked up his notebook and started writing. Not a resume, not a complaint. Just a new page. October 14th. Helped someone get home. Lost my job. Not my dignity. He paused. Still worth it. The wind outside picked up, rattling the window pane. Ethan closed the book and leaned back in his chair. He didn't have answers. He didn't have a job, but he still had the one thing they couldn't take. The kind of man he chose to be when no one was watching. And in that, somehow, he found peace. He didn't know it yet, but peace was just the beginning. Because someone had been watching, and 3 days later his phone would ring, and nothing after that would be the same. 3 days passed. The pain hadn't faded, but it had settled, like dust on a shelf Ethan no longer had the energy to wipe clean. He spent his mornings scrolling through job listings and his nights rewriting versions of a resume that no one was reading. In between, he checked his student portal as if staring at the tuition balance might somehow reduce it. He hadn't told his mum yet. Linda Walker had given up too much for him to admit he'd been fired. Not yet. Not like this. The call came just after noon on the third day. Unknown number. He hesitated, then answered, "Hello?" A pause, then a familiar voice. "Hi, is this Ethan Walker?" "Yes, speaking." "This is Amelia. We met a few nights ago. At Morrison's." Ethan straightened up in his chair, the air caught in his throat. "Oh yeah, of course. Everything okay?" "Yes, thanks to you. I got home safely. My daughter slept through the whole drive. I just wanted to say thank you, again. And I'd really like to return the $10 you covered. I also sent you a small gift to the address listed on your transaction receipt. I hope that's okay." Ethan blinked. He hadn't expected to hear from her again, much less receive anything. "You didn't have to do that. Really?" She hesitated on the other end. "Well, I wanted to. And I thought that was it, honestly. Just say thanks and move on. But you mentioned something in passing. That night, you said you'd lost your job." Ethan sighed. "Yeah. I got fired for helping you, or more specifically for breaking company policy during an audit week." A beat of silence. "I'm so sorry," she said quietly. "I didn't know. It's not your fault. I made the choice." Another pause, then her voice returned, more certain now. "Can we meet? There's something I think you should know." They agreed to meet at a small coffee shop tucked between a bookstore and a florist on Maple Street. It was quiet, neutral, safe. As Ethan arrived, he spotted a Bentley pulling up to the curb, sleek, silent, completely out of place. The driver's side door opened, and Amelia stepped out. Gone was the exhausted woman in a thin coat and panic in her voice. Today, she wore a fitted blazer, dark jeans, and the calm authority of someone who didn't just survive storms. She led through them. She greeted him with a warm smile, but her eyes held something deeper. Gratitude. And maybe something else. Purpose. They sat by the window. A soft jazz track played overhead. Outside, leaves fell in slow spirals, catching in the wind. "So," Ethan began, "you drive a Bentley now?" She chuckled. "I always did. I just wasn't allowed to during the challenge." Challenge. Amelia leaned forward. "I work for a global company that runs internal leadership accelerators. Last month, I was selected for a program called Ground Zero. Each participant is given $500, no access to our bank accounts, no name-dropping, no favors. We had 30 days to survive, build a micro-business, or contribute meaningfully to a real-world community, and report results." Ethan's eyes widened slightly. It was intense, eye-opening, humbling. By the last day, I was running low on cash, almost out of gas, and terrified I wouldn't finish. And then you helped me, without knowing who I was, without asking for anything. Ethan looked down at his coffee. "It was just $10. She shook her head. "It wasn't. It was humanity. It was rare. And it reminded me of who I used to be before I started chasing numbers and forgot what real kindness looked like." They sat in silence for a moment, the weight of her words hanging in the air. Then she reached into her bag and handed him an envelope. "This is for you, not a paycheck, not pity, just a gesture, and also an offer." Ethan opened the envelope. Inside was a handwritten note and a business card. Under her name was a title. Director of Strategic Growth. "I'm building something new," she said. "A startup within our parent company. A new branch, human first business. I want you to be part of it, not because you gave me gas, but because I saw the kind of character that no degree or resume can teach." Ethan blinked. "What would I even do?" "Start as my assistant," Amelia said. "Learn the ropes. Earn while you study, maybe grow with us if it fits." He stared at the card. Something inside him stirred, not relief, not pride, but recognition. Of something old, something true. His mother had once said, "Sometimes you plant a seed in the dark." and you don't even realize it's growing until it breaks the surface. He looked up. Why me? Amelia smiled. Because you watered the world, even when your own cup was empty. Outside, the Bentley waited. Inside, Ethan's life had just shifted on its axis, and all it took was a single act of kindness. The next morning felt different. Ethan woke up before his alarm. Not from anxiety this time, but something else, an odd combination of curiosity and cautious hope. It had been days since he'd felt anything other than dread when opening his eyes. Now, there was something to get up for. He put on a clean shirt, the one he usually saved for presentations at school, and packed his old canvas notebook into his backpack. The one with all the stories. He wasn't sure if he'd need it, but something told him to bring it anyway. Amelia picked him up in the same Bentley she'd arrived in the day before. This time, it felt less like a symbol and more like a statement. We're not hiding anymore. Their destination wasn't a towering glass building or a pristine corporate office. It was a co-working space tucked inside an old firehouse, repurposed into a hub for young startups. Inside, the walls were brick, the floors were concrete, and everything buzzed with the kind of messy energy Ethan had only read about in entrepreneur blogs. "Welcome to the lab," Amelia said as she held the door open. Ethan followed her in, taking it all in. Young people in jeans and hoodies clustered around laptops and whiteboards, scribbling ideas like their lives depended on them. "This is where we test ideas," she explained, "where we fail fast and learn faster. My job is to launch new initiatives that blend social responsibility with business strategy. Real value with real values." They passed a meeting room with the words, "Build what matters," etched on the glass. Amelia led him to a smaller room in the back. It wasn't fancy, but it had a desk, a chair, and a view of the street. "This could be yours, if you want it." Ethan turned to her. "I don't even know what I'd be doing." "You'll help me manage outreach, assist with research, take notes during strategy calls, maybe pitch in during early-stage planning. We're still defining the role, but that's kind of the beauty of it. You'll grow into it as we build." He nodded slowly. "And you're okay hiring someone who got fired for breaking a rule?" Amelia's eyes didn't flinch. "I'm hiring someone who broke a rule for the right reason. I don't need perfect. I need principled." Those words struck something deep inside Ethan. For so long, he had felt like an outsider in every room he entered. Suddenly, he was being invited to build the room from the ground up. He accepted the offer that afternoon. The first week flew by in a blur of onboarding tasks, coffee-fueled meetings, and late-night brainstorming. Amelia treated Ethan not like an assistant, but like a partner in progress. She asked his opinion, listened when he spoke, and pushed him to think beyond gas station counters and resume lines. One afternoon, while sorting through early user data from a social impact survey, Ethan had an idea. What if we included a pay-it-forward feature at point of sale? Like, people could round up their total to donate to someone who needs help with fuel later. Amelia paused, eyes narrowing with interest. "You mean, let kindness become part of the system?" "Exactly," Ethan said. "We always talk about people helping people, but why not build it right into the experience?" She smiled. "You might be onto something." The next few days, they fleshed out the details. They called it the Gas Guardian Initiative. Customers would have the option to donate extra change to a fund that would cover fuel for those in emergency need. No questions asked. It wouldn't be charity. It would be community. Ethan worked late into the evenings, researching models, drafting pilot plans, even sketching app interfaces on the back of coffee sleeves. For the first time in months, he didn't feel like he was just surviving. He felt like he was building. On Friday, Amelia brought in lunch from a local food truck, and they sat on the rooftop patio. "So," she asked, sipping her lemonade, "how does it feel to be on the other side of the counter?" Ethan looked around, the city skyline in the distance, the sound of keyboards clacking below, the weight of possibility in his chest. "It feels like I can breathe again." Amelia didn't respond right away. Then she said softly, "I think you were always meant for more, Ethan. You just needed someone to believe it with you." He didn't know what to say to that, so he just nodded. Somewhere down on the street, a siren wailed, and for a brief second, Ethan remembered the sound of that cold October wind, the buzz of the neon sign outside Morrison's, the look on Coleman's face. And he was glad, so glad that he hadn't let that moment define him. This wasn't just a job. This was the beginning of something different, and deep down he knew. The best chapters were still ahead. Ethan had been with the startup for 3 weeks when he first noticed it. Something small, a flicker at the edge of a spreadsheet, a quiet number that didn't quite fit. He was reviewing old case reports from Morrison's when he saw it. A flagged incident labeled IR 0447. No customer complaint, no dollar amount lost, but marked internal review only. His curiosity flared. It was dated 6 months before his firing. Odd. That night, long after most of the office had cleared out, Ethan stayed. The building was quiet, humming only with the soft mechanical sounds of computers left idle and distant traffic outside. He opened the file. Inside was a security report. Attached, camera footage from one of Morrison's gas stations, his old store. The file had been scrubbed of identifying names, but Ethan would have known the layout of that place anywhere. Pump 4, late at night, rain tapping against the awning, he hit play. An elderly man stood near the pump, struggling with the card reader. His hands shook. He tried once, twice, then a third time. The terminal blinked red each time. His wallet trembled in his grip. He walked inside, spoke briefly to the attendant. There was no audio, but the body language was clear. He was asking for help. The clerk behind the counter, a familiar figure, shook his head. Cold, dismissive. The man exited, shoulders slumped. Outside, the rain had picked up. The old man returned to his car, sat for a moment, and then got out again. He opened the hood, tried to do something under the engine, likely warming the battery. Then, in the final seconds of the clip, he collapsed. Just dropped, like a marionette whose strings had been cut. The screen went black. Ethan sat frozen. The timestamp on the footage placed it during one of Mr. Coleman's solo shifts. He leaned back in his chair, heart thudding. There had been no record of injury, no report, nothing in the news. The man's name wasn't listed. The next morning, Ethan brought it to Amelia. She watched the clip silently, jaw tightening, fingers curled against her mug. When it ended, she said, "They never filed this. It was marked internal only, covered up." "What happened to him?" Ethan shook his head. "I don't know, but we need to find out." Amelia tapped her nails against the desk. This is what we're fighting against, this kind of silence. By noon, she had looped in legal, compliance, and a contact at their media relations firm. But Ethan couldn't let it go, not just yet. He spent the next 2 days calling hospitals, checking records, even cold-calling nearby shelters. Finally, someone at a local clinic remembered the man. "Jack Moretti," the nurse said. "He came in soaked to the bone, borderline hypothermia, said he passed out near a gas station. Wouldn't give us more than that. Just wanted to leave once he warmed up." Ethan exhaled. "Do you know where he is now?" "He's fine, far as I know. Left us a note saying, 'The world owes me nothing, but I'm grateful for the kind ones anyway.'" It stayed with Ethan. By Friday, the story had reached the company's board. The CEO called for an emergency meeting. Mr. Coleman's name came up, and this time someone listened. The footage was submitted to corporate archives with a formal investigation launched. But more than that, it became fuel. Ethan and Amelia revised their Gas Guardian pilot to include a clause. Anyone in need of assistance could now be connected anonymously with local support networks funded by community contributions. It wasn't about giving handouts. It was about ensuring no one had to collapse alone. The press got wind of it after a tech blogger shared a snippet of the story, framing it as "Gas Station Startup Turns Human Kindness into Scalable Policy." Within 48 hours, Ethan was getting emails from journalists, non-profit leaders, even city officials. But that wasn't what mattered to him. What mattered was the printout he kept now in his notebook. A still frame of the elderly man reaching for help, and the words scribbled in Ethan's handwriting below it. "Don't let this happen again." That night, as he left the office, he passed the Morrison's location he once worked at. The neon sign still buzzed, still flickered like it might give out at any moment. But Ethan didn't stop. He had somewhere better to be now. He had something to fight for, and he wasn't alone. The morning started like any other. Emails, Slack pings, a lukewarm coffee in a reusable cup that had seen better days. Ethan had barely slept. After the fallout from the Morrisons' footage, the media attention had been non-stop. Interviews, podcasts, write-ups. Some called him a whistleblower. Others called him a visionary. He didn't feel like either. He just felt tired. The elevator pinged open to their floor, and Amelia greeted him with a half-smile from the conference room. "You're famous now, you know." "I didn't ask for that," Ethan said, setting his bag down. "I just wanted to make sure no one else fell through the cracks." Exactly why they're paying attention. That afternoon, Ethan stepped out to grab a sandwich from the cafe down the block. The air was crisp, the kind of pre-winter breeze that tugged at collars and whispered change. As he walked back, someone called his name. "Ethan Walker?" He turned. A man in his 60s stood by the edge of the building, tall, slightly hunched, wearing a brown cap and a navy jacket zipped up to his throat. His eyes were tired but alert. "I'm sorry. Do I know you?" The man took a step forward, pulling a folded newspaper from his pocket. On the front page, Ethan, seated next to Amelia, captioned beneath a headline about Gas Guardian. "It's you," the man said, "from the station 2 years ago. You probably don't remember." Ethan froze. 2 years ago. A rain-soaked night. A man with a broken card. No money, no way home, and a quiet act of kindness. "You needed a few gallons to get home," Ethan said slowly. "Your card kept declining." The man smiled. "And you covered it. No questions. Didn't even wait for a thank you." Ethan shook his head, stunned. "You remember that? You think I could forget? I'd just left the hospital. My wife had passed. I hadn't slept in 3 days. I was running on empty in every sense. You didn't just help me get home, son. You helped me get through the night." Ethan didn't know what to say. The man extended a hand. "Jack Moretti, I saw your name in the papers. Didn't realize until I saw your face. I had to come say thank you, properly." They sat at a bench near the corner bakery. Jack told him about the logistics company he'd owned for 27 years, about how he'd stepped back, let his kids take over, about how he spent the last year searching for something to believe in again. "You know what I've been thinking, Ethan," Jack said, sipping his coffee. "You took a hit for helping someone, and you still didn't stop helping. That's rare. That's the kind of character companies pretend to care about, but you actually live it." Ethan looked down, humbled. "Honestly, I wasn't trying to be anything. I just saw someone who needed a little grace, that's all." Jack smiled. "Sometimes grace is all it takes." There was a pause. Then Jack leaned in slightly. "What if I told you I wanted in? On what you and Amelia are building?" Ethan blinked. "I'm sorry. My company still owns fleet stations across the state, distribution points, infrastructure. You've got the heart. Amelia's got the brain. I've got the wheels. Let's expand this thing. Let's make Gas Guardian real, not just a pilot in test markets, but a movement." Ethan's pulse quickened. He hadn't dared think that far yet. "Expansion, statewide. I don't know what to say," he murmured. "Say you'll think about it, and say you'll keep doing what you're doing." They exchanged numbers. Jack left with a firm handshake and a promise to follow up. Ethan stood there long after the man disappeared down the block. Back at the office, Amelia looked up from her laptop as he returned. "You look like you've seen a ghost." "Maybe I did," he said, breathless. "From 2 years ago, and he just offered to back us." She raised her eyebrows. "Seriously?" Ethan nodded. "It's happening. What we dreamed, it's actually happening." Amelia closed her laptop, her face softening. "Then let's get to work." Outside, dusk began to roll in, amber and silent. And inside, a small dream, once born in the dim light of a forgotten gas station, was about to stretch beyond anything Ethan could have imagined. Sometimes, the kindness you forget becomes the legacy someone else remembers. The storm that night wasn't outside. It was in Ethan's chest. He sat across from Amelia in a quiet booth at their favorite cafe, the scent of cinnamon rolls lingering in the air between them. Outside, dusk painted the windows orange and pink, the sun slowly retreating behind city skylines. Amelia pulled something small from her purse, a leather wallet, old, faded, and clearly well-loved. "This used to be my mum's," she said, placing it carefully on the table. Ethan tilted his head. "Is that the same one you had when you came to the gas station?" She nodded. "It's the only thing of hers I carry." He looked at her, puzzled. "Why show it to me now?" Amelia opened the wallet gently and pulled out a small folded note, creased with age. She placed it in front of Ethan like it was sacred. In loopy, handwritten script were the words, "For the road ahead, you're not alone, L.W." Ethan blinked. His breath caught. "L.W.?" Amelia nodded slowly. "Linda Walker. Your mum." Ethan stared at the note like it was glowing. "When I was 7, Amelia began, her voice quieter now. My mum and I were stranded outside a diner 2 towns over. We had nothing. My mum was crying in the car, and I didn't understand why. A waitress came out and said, 'Come in, just sit, it's warm inside.' She fed us, gave us hot cocoa, and when we were leaving, she slipped this note and $20 into my mum's wallet." She paused. "That woman was your mother?" Ethan leaned back, stunned. He had heard countless stories about his mum helping strangers, but this was a full circle drawn by life itself. "My mum never told me that story," he said softly. Amelia smiled. "She wouldn't. People like her don't do it for the story." The room was silent, the kind of silence where two people realized the invisible threads that had been pulling them toward this moment their entire lives. "You kept the wallet all these years?" Ethan asked. "I begged my mum not to throw it away. It reminded me that kindness isn't a myth. It's real. I carried it to every important moment of my life. College, my first job, even the challenge that brought me to your station." Ethan looked at the note again. "You're not alone." It suddenly made sense, the way Amelia had treated him from day one, not just with respect, but with recognition. She had grown up remembering what it felt like to be saved, and now in her own way she was passing it on. "This whole thing," Ethan whispered, "you, me, Gas Guardian, it started long before either of us realized." Amelia nodded. "It started with a cup of cocoa and a waitress who refused to let a mother and daughter freeze. There was something fragile and beautiful about the moment, like stepping into a memory that belonged to both of them." "You want to know the real reason I trusted you so quickly?" she asked. Ethan met her eyes. "Yeah, because when you looked at me at the gas station that night, you looked the same way your mum did. Not like I was a burden, but like I was human." That hit Ethan deeper than any award or headline ever could. He smiled, blinking fast. She'd be proud to know that little act stuck. Amelia tucked the note back into the wallet and placed it carefully in her bag. "She didn't just raise a good man," she said. "She sparked something bigger than she ever knew." Outside, the last of the light faded, leaving only the warm glow of street lamps and the quiet certainty between them. The world had moved them like chess pieces, slow and deliberate, until kindness met legacy in the most unexpected way. And all Ethan could think was, she was right. You're not alone. 5 years later, the Morrison's gas station was gone, torn down. In its place stood a sleek, solar-paneled, glass-fronted flagship of something new, something better. Above the entrance, in crisp silver letters, read, "Guardian Fuel, powered by purpose." Inside, the smell of roasted coffee mingled with motor oil, and beneath soft acoustic music playing overhead, customers filled up, browsed snacks, or sat near the digital kiosk scrolling through local stories of kindness. One wall stood apart. It was simple, just a backlit panel with a single plaque that read, "The first $10. Below it, encased in glass, was a crumpled gas receipt, dated 5 years ago, paid in cash, no customer name. But signed in blue ink, Ethan W. Ethan Walker, now 28, stood just outside the wall of glass, sipping from a paper cup. His badge read, Chief Community Officer, though he hardly used the title. His flannel sleeves were rolled up, and a smudge of grease still clung to his wrist. He liked staying close to the ground. From behind, a small hand tugged at his coat. "Excuse me, sir. Are you the guy in the picture?" He turned. A little boy stood there with a mother behind him, gently smiling. Ethan knelt. "What picture?" The boy pointed to the inside wall. His mum added, "He's been reading the story since we got here. He wanted to know if the guy who helped the lady with no gas still works here." Ethan chuckled. "I guess I do." The boy beamed. "You're like a superhero." Ethan grinned. "Not even close, but thank you." As they walked away, Amelia approached from the other side, tablet in hand, expression bright. She looked different than when they first met. More relaxed, more radiant. The weight of proving herself had been replaced by the satisfaction of having done so. "We got the final numbers," she said. "Over 82,000 people have received gas support through Guardian Fuel. 40% of them used it to get to work, school, or a hospital. 30% paid it forward within 6 months. Ethan whistled softly. "That's not a statistic, that's a ripple effect." She nodded. "And we're not done." Jack confirmed. His company's donating land for 2 more regional hubs. They walked along the edge of the lot, the sky a canvas of late afternoon gold. The new Guardian trucks rolled in silently, their electric engines purring like contented cats. Ethan stopped and pointed toward a small break-room window where a new hire was helping a nervous teenage girl scan her first transaction. "She reminds me of me," he said. "First job, no clue what to expect, just hoping someone gives her a chance." Amelia looked at him. "You were always going to give someone that chance. Even before all this." He smiled, but it faded slightly. "I wish my mum could have seen this." "She does," Amelia said gently. "Every time you show up, every person you make space for." They returned inside just as a small group gathered for orientation. It was a ritual now. Every new Guardian Fuel employee got a tour and a story. Amelia stood at the front, microphone in hand. This place was born from a moment that could have been ignored, a $10 act of kindness. That's all it took. A young man saw a struggling mother and decided to help, knowing he might get in trouble for it. And he did. He lost his job, but what he didn't lose was his humanity. She gestured to the display case. "That receipt started all this. We don't just serve fuel, we serve people, we serve stories. And every one of you is now a chapter in that story." Ethan watched them. Young faces, old faces, hopeful ones, all carrying pieces of his past, ready to build futures of their own. Later that evening, when the crowd had thinned, Ethan returned to the wall and pressed his palm against the glass that held the receipt. Behind him, Amelia joined, setting down a small frame. Inside was a photograph of Linda Walker in her diner uniform, smiling as she poured coffee. A sticky note was taped to the bottom. "Help when you can, even if no one's watching." Ethan swallowed the lump in his throat. "She would have loved you," Amelia said softly. "She already did," Ethan replied, "in her own way, before either of us knew." As the last rays of sunlight filtered in through the storefront, a couple stepped through the doors with their baby in a stroller. Amelia recognized the woman immediately. "Is that?" Ethan turned. It was her, the woman from that night. 5 years older now, but the same kind eyes. She smiled when she saw them. "You probably don't remember me," she said, lifting her daughter into her arms, "but you helped us, that night. We never forgot." Amelia stepped forward. "Neither did we." They all stood there for a moment, past and present converging in one spot, proof that kindness never goes unseen. As the sun dipped below the horizon, Guardian Fuel glowed like a lighthouse in a weary world. And inside, the $10 legacy kept burning, bright and unstoppable. In the end, it wasn't about gas. It wasn't even about $10. It was about a choice, a simple, quiet choice, to help someone, even when no one was watching. And that choice, it changed everything, from a crumpled receipt, to a job lost, to a legacy that now fuels thousands of lives every single day. So here's the question: what would you have done in Ethan's place? Have you ever helped a stranger and wondered if it mattered? Or has a stranger ever helped you? Tell us in the comments below. Your story might just inspire someone else tonight. And if this story moved you, even a little, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to our channel, and hit the bell icon so you'll never miss the next chapter. Because here, we don't just tell stories, we remember what kindness can become.